Well, 10 days, Nas, since we were in Dubai for the final of the Champions Trophy. We've had a bit of a pause, but lots been happening in the cricket world, actually. But how have you been?
Relatively, I've been in good spirits, actually, apart from the jet lag. I keep getting up at 5:30 thinking it's Dubai or Pakistan time. But the weather's picked up. It's going to be 20 degrees today. And I feel like we're on the verge of the English summer. I know we're not there yet, but county sides are away. Some county sides are already outside practicing. I don't know what Josh, your lad's doing. Are Middlesex home or away? Is he in the sun? Or
I think they're outside for the first time today or yesterday. They've been in this tent. They have a tent up, which is a kind of inside-outside thing up at Merchant Taylor's School. But they'll all be prepping for Jimmy Anderson, who their first game is against Lancashire on April the 4th at Lord's. And I mean, Jimmy's going to be playing in. He hasn't bowled a ball in anger. I know he's bowled in the nets, but he hasn't bowled a ball in anger since his last Test match.
Yeah, that cold easterly at Lord's or whatever. He'll have to wrap up warm, old Jim.
Yeah.
And you, how have you been?
Good, really. Yeah, excellent. Just there's been a fair bit of news, hasn't there, since we got back? I mean, Mark Wood's news on the back of that Champions Trophy. I think we all saw that he was stuffed at the end of that tournament. But the formal news came that he needs a knee operation and he's going to be out for 4 months, which basically puts him out of the English Test summer. And the Ashes now is looking. Well, I don't know. What do you think? You get to a point where you've had so many injuries and you're of a certain age and you're not getting, the cricket that you need. What do you think? Can he make the Ashes?
I mean, he can make the Ashes simply because he's done it so many times, the rehab and the way he digs deep to come back again. I mean, you feel so sad. He is such a likable lad. I mean, any teammate, anyone that's ever met Mark Wood would just want and wish good things for him. And he keeps breaking down. And when we saw it happen in the game in Pakistan, we were like, oh, not again. And it's shown that it is a bad one. And 4 months is not just.
Do you think they were wise to kind of push him through that game at the end?
No, I don't. I thought at the time, I always wince a little bit when a fast bowler, and you have to balance it as a captain. You got to win a game. But you also got to look after the future of a fast bowler and look after the individual. If you think of football, for example, if someone's injured, pretty much the manager will just drag him off straight away. The difference, obviously, in football is you can have a substitute, and you put a substitute on. You can't in cricket. Mark Wood had to come back and try and hobble his way through a couple of overs. I don't know if that made it any worse. It looked a serious incident at the time. And you feel not. There's one thing getting fit and getting back on the park, but getting your speeds up, getting bowling fit, and then Australia is a hard tour. You have to be fully fit physically and mentally, and then you got Jofra as well. So the plans that Rob Key and England have had of taking pace, even though Brendan McCullum's spoken about Jofra coming back maybe this summer and playing the odd test. I think the one thing. In the bonus is that it looks like Australia, and we've discussed this on previous pods, with the different Kookaburra ball they're using with the lacquer and the slightly bigger seam, it looks like it's doing a bit more for the medium fast bowlers. So I know Sam Cook had a pretty decent time, on the Lions tour down there. So pace is important, but it may not be as important it has been on previous visits to Australia. Do you agree or not?
Well, Peter Siddle's still going. What did I say?
If Jimmy has a good summer, get Jimmy back.
Yeah, I worry like you, I hope Mark Wood recovers well and gets back. We should get him on the pod, actually, just to kind of talk through head to toe of all the injuries that he's had. That would take up 45 minutes of a pod in itself.
And 15 minutes on Newcastle at the end, and winning their first cup for however many years
after that win the other day. Harry Brooks news: he's pulled out of the IPL, and I don't. Do you think that means? Well, it could mean a couple of things. Do you think that means he's had the nod from Rob Key about the one-day captaincy? I mean, he's still the favourite, isn't he, to take over?
You'd think so. I mean, there must be a reason for it. He's done it in previous years for obviously personal reasons, and there are or could be repercussions. I don't know the legality, and there's rumours that you get banned for a couple of years. They changed it because a lot of cricketers, well, Harry being one of them, were going through the draft, getting in, and then on the verge of a tournament pulling out. So, but I think he's got to do A, what's best for him with the amount of cricket, and B, if Rob Key has just tapped him on the shoulder and said, we want you to be our white ball captain. I know you were concerned that if he did do everything, the effect that it would have on him. So maybe it is a sign that Rob Key's just tapped him on the shoulder and saying, we are definitely looking at you, but you may have to look at your schedule.
Yeah, I wonder whether they'll end up going down the route of 3 separate captains if they pick Harry Brook for 50 overs and Ben Stokes, obviously the Test captain. It looks though the T20 side is the one that will kind of separate away, and you'd look at a separate captain for that. 3 captains, which they've done before, but they're not necessarily straightforward. I was a bit downbeat about Cricket Australia's announcement about the 150th Test match being played under lights, which I can't think is a good decision, really. So that game will come in 2027, won't it? 50 years after the centenary Test of 1977 and 150 years after the 1877 first game. But they're going to play it, by the sounds of it, with a pink ball under lights. And they've been obviously they play one a year there, mainly in Adelaide, but not exclusively so. But
I was going to say, when I read you, I was going to say, come on, Atherton, move with the times. You're sounding like an old fuddy-duddy, however many years of Test history. But actually, Joel, my son, Joel, who, whatever he is, 22, he turned to me over tea the other night and went, why have they made that game a day-night game sort of thing? And I went, well, maybe. Isn't it because they want people in England to watch as well? Or
that's of course what they've said, that the greater number of people might be able to watch. But we've been around long enough to know it's probably about the value of television rights. Right. And it's a very interesting thing because obviously you are wary of sounding like an old fuddy-duddy, to use your term. But cricket is not a sport that is resistant to change. Cricket, probably more than any other sport, has promoted change. And of course, that's a good thing. You've got to move with the times. So day-night Test cricket has been trialled. Obviously, T20 or the 100 in England's case, short form formats have come in. And the game has changed probably more than any other sport. Somebody of 50 years ago wouldn't recognize much of what's played today. But that doesn't mean that at every opportunity you have to be, pro change, or if you're having a 150th anniversary Test match to celebrate the 150 years history of Test cricket, surely you should reflect the way that the vast majority of Test matches have been played, which I think they've only been 23 day-night Tests, something like that. I'm not sure of the exact number, but it's in that region, and we've had more than 2,000 of them. So why wouldn't you celebrate it in a form that is largely recognisable over the years that it's been played?
Well, talking of change, Ath, what have you made of the rumours in various papers here in the UK about the changes they're going to make to the World Test Championship? We have the final of the recent cycle, which is South Africa, Australia, early June at Lords, but they're talking about tinkering with it, which I think is the right thing. I think everyone agrees it's not quite a fair system at the moment. Not everyone plays everyone. Not everyone plays the same amount of games. Not everyone plays home and away the same amount of games. What have you made of the possible changes to that?
Well, they're talking, what you mentioned there, having read, is the tinkering around points for away wins, that kind of thing. But the other thing you mentioned in that line was the fundamental unfairness of not everybody playing everybody else and home and away over the same number of matches. I'd suggest that's a more important issue than tinkering around with points. Try and get the World Test Championship to be a fair system, in the sense that everybody plays each other over the same number of games, home and away. Probably impossible in given the scheduling demands over a 2-year period. But I think that's the issue. That's where people have struggled to engage with it, because because of the way that it's structured. So we shall see. I mean, all kinds of talk about two divisions, and that was the story of a few months ago, that they wanted two divisions, partly maybe in order for England, Australia, and India to play against each other even more frequently, which I don't think either of us thought was a particularly good idea. But that's all speculation. South Africa play Australia. That's in June. I noticed, I think there was a story on Cricket Info today that South Africa's season 25-26 is not going to have one home men's test match. I don't think. Which tells you something when South Africa are in the final of the World Test Championship. Bit of good news for England's women. Nat Sciver-Brunt had an outstanding WPL, finished as the leading run scorer in a victory for Mumbai. Not much good news coming out of the kind of the women's camp at the moment in terms of England, but that was a bit of good news.
Yeah, she has been outstanding, and probably the issue has been with England women is that they rely a little bit too heavily on her. And if she does get out cheaply, then they look short to be, and you look, then they get concerned. But she was unbelievable in that WPL, not just with bat, but with the ball in the field. And they beat Delhi again. I think that's 3 times in a row. Delhi have got, Meg Lanning has got through to a final and lost, and they look absolutely distraught at the end. It was a really good game, actually, and the standard and quality of that competition is just going to go from strength to strength. That was a well-supported, well-done, good pitches, lots of boundaries. It was an exceptional tournament, WPL.
And the 100 draft, that came in the last 10 days since our return from the Champions Trophy. David Warner off to London Spirit. Big payday for Jamie Overton. Zach Crawley up to the Northern Superchargers. He'll have to go north from Kent. He's up there, so he's no longer with the Spirit. What any other? Arachin Ravindra, he's up at the Originals. That's a good signing. For them.
And some ones that were already announced, like Steve Smith at Welsh Fire, and there are some big names coming across, really, and it's good to see. It's something that the tournament absolutely desperately needs. Obviously, with the huge injection of cash that has come in, and they're still probably arguing about at the moment with the ECB and the finer details of what you get for all that cash. So you still feel a very important couple of years ahead for the tournament and the direction of the tournament.
Well, all that's ahead. What's happening right now is it's that time of year when the kind of cricket world stops and a window is created, or a window is available for IPL. So that's getting underway this weekend. First game Saturday. We thought we'd get a guest on to chat about the forthcoming IPL. Sam Curran is going to join us. Sam, welcome. First time on the Sky Cricket podcast, is it? You're sat in Chennai awaiting your first game this weekend, which is on Sunday.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Obviously arrived in Chennai probably 4 or 5 days ago. Very excited, as you always are, before IPL season. First game versus the Mumbai Indians, which is kind of the El Clasico of the IPL, which is exciting. Especially when you arrive. Obviously, being back at Chennai is nice as well, where I've been before. So training's going well, and all ready for Saturday.
Can I ask what the buzz is like in town? You said you've been there 6 days or so. Obviously, you've been training at the stadium there. I mean, do you have thousands of people turning up for training sessions? Are the training sessions behind closed doors? What's the kind of buzz like in the city? Can you get out and about and lead a relatively normal life, or not possible?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I played in Dubai and in the ILT a few weeks back, and then had a couple of weeks at home, and then when I landed in Chennai, I almost forgot what I guess cricket was like in terms of having the crowds. I walked out the airport looking for the drive. I was like, "Oh God, we're back in India. Here we go." The fans are kind of buzzing, and it's awesome. I played 2 years with Chennai, probably 2021, 2020, with the COVID, which was in Dubai, so which was no fans, and now to be back here is great. The training's been really good. Obviously, the Chipak, where there's a members club where the local members can come down to training, but no fans are allowed into training. I guess when you got guys like Dhoni and Jadeja and all these guys, the hotel lobbies and stuff are incredibly busy. And it's everyone knows who's experienced cricket in India. It's extremely huge. And I guess now when you train, you see all the big speakers and all the TV screens and the branding all starting. It definitely feels like when we drive on the bus, there's thousands of yellow shirts going to training. And I think the great thing, I actually noticed they only put tickets on sale yesterday or something, and it's already kind of sold out, which I found was fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I noticed is that it's a tournament that doesn't need promoting. It's the best franchise, the biggest, audience globally than any other tournament, but it does promote itself very well. The social media teams have been out in force, haven't they? There's some great social media out there, great adverts. They sell the product and the build up to the first game very well. I even saw you by the pool with some fancy shades on with your Chennai shirt on. They sell it well.
They do. I think that's one thing you notice as a player. I think coming out to the IPL, you feel incredibly loved. I think your social media gets crazy, or like you said, you do loads of different shoots. But I think that's the product in itself. I guess when you turn up to the stadium, there's in England, obviously, when you do that, you kind of get the fans. I don't feel are as like crazy. You got loads of shirts, people are wearing your name and trying to get pictures. And yeah, I think when you play at Chennai and you got someone like MS in the side, it's every ground you go to is just a sea of yellow. So I think every game's a home game, but they do sell it really well. And I think that's why it's so big and it's getting even bigger. I think this tournament's fractionally longer than the last few years as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets longer and longer and more games, I guess.
Obviously, Chennai have had a consistency over the many years of the IPL with Dhoni and Fleming. They've been there since the start. You mentioned, you were there in 2020 and 21. You've been at Punjab either side of that. How easy is it, or does it matter at all about loyalty and connections? I mean, when you move from franchise to franchise, do you think of yourself as just a kind of short-term contractor? I'm here to do a job and I'll do it as well as I can. Or is it important to try and develop the connections and the loyalty with teammates again? And how easy is it to do that when you move, from franchise to franchise every few years?
Yeah, I think we all know the game's moving incredibly fast with all these tournaments. But I think I'll give you an example of, would you look at the Chennai and Mumbai, they've probably won 5 trophies. And I think that's probably links to the loyalty, the continuous, I guess, selection. We go to training now. I was asking a few of the coaches, they've been there since 2008, since it started. So I think when I got picked up in the auction at Chennai, I had about 12, 14 WhatsApp messages from all the people that were here in 2020. And I think it's those small things that make you appreciate. Sometimes franchise cricket can be a little bit, you turn up and I guess you play the tournament and you on to the next one. But I think Chennai, and they've shown why they're the most successful franchise. I guess you win 5 trophies and probably, I think there's somebody said they haven't made the finals in 3 years or something, which is incredible. So I think that's just the loyalty. I think is a big thing, because as a player, you sometimes just feel you turn up and you're there. But I think it's the clarity you get from the coaching staff, the hotel staff. Everyone just treats you guys all the same, which is, I think, a big thing. But franchise cricket's incredibly different. And I think now that all these franchises are building their kind of stuff around the world, you see the best franchises are almost trying to get their players playing all around for them. So you see a few guys playing for the same franchise all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned MS Dhoni. What has made him over the years such a special cricketer and captain? I know he's no longer captain of Chennai, but what's he like? Boring fan question. I've very rarely spent much time with MS Dhoni, apart from a toss or a presentation. You've shared a dressing room with him. What's he like that's made him such a good cricketer and captain?
I think, obviously, looking back, was a few years when I did play with him. Obviously, we start again on Sunday, but I think it's the calmness he had. I think he doesn't do many meetings. It's almost the subtle things at training. I think he'll be I think the pitch will do this. You don't need to do too much. And I think sometimes you can fall in that trap. But being a bowler, I think it's that calmness your captain can give you. But don't worry, we stick with this. It's going to work. And I think even in the dressing room, he's very I think I find it fascinating. You go down to training. The other night I was batting with MS and Jadeja at 11:30 in the evening. I was thinking, where in the world would you do this? The lights were on and we're just smacking balls everywhere. And I was thinking, but you have all the local players around the group and they just sit there and they just watch MS, and it's just more the aura of the guy. He's so easy to chat to, and I think his calmness, I guess the big moments he's been involved in, but he never seems to panic. I feel like the emotion on his face, he never really shows too much. And even in the hotel now, the guys always talk about he leaves his room open, guys go and play FIFA with him, chat cricket and stuff like that. He obviously can't leave the hotel much because he just gets absolutely mobbed.
I mean, what is he now? 43 or something?
It's
even
amazing.
Older than Jimmy Anderson.
I know, but he's still striking the ball very well and keeping obviously amazing. So I guess I find the fascinating thing when I played at Punjab last year, obviously when you come up against Dhoni in the IPL, I guess it's almost as everyone worries about Dhoni when he's walking out to bat. How are we going to bowl at Dhoni and stuff like that? I think he's earned that, and hopefully he can have another great season. Everyone says it's his last, but presume we'll just keep going.
You had an unbelievable price tag. Was it 2 years ago now? You were sold for 1.6 or something, and you're back down to, well, I don't want to say a more realistic price point now, but the price point has come down a bit. And does that affect how you go about it? Did you feel the pressure of that price tag a couple of years ago? And no doubt, while you'd quite like to have that price tag again, does it make it slightly easier carrying less of a price tag now or not?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I was actually thinking about it the other day. Obviously, auctions are all about, I guess you can say, timing and trends. And I was obviously quite lucky when I had a really good World Cup in 2022, and the auction was almost 3 weeks after that. So I feel like it happens to a lot of players. And don't get me wrong, you want to be on the big fees, but at the same time, I think when I got picked up by Chennai, I was glad to be back, I guess, at a place that I think knows how to use me in terms of roles. And I felt, obviously, without having that tag, you can go a little bit more focused on your own game and the expectation. I think that's the big thing. When you go for a lot of money, I feel like people expect you to just be this maverick player with superpowers when it's actually out of your hands in terms of what you go for. So I guess once you're at the IPL, the money stuff doesn't really come across, especially in good franchises. It's not really a topic. It's all about how do we win this game, especially somewhere like I am now. I feel like it's all about that first game Sunday, and you'll do this, you'll do that. And don't get me wrong, there's pressure I do think the pressure increases when you're on that bigger fee. So I feel in a good place coming into this season. And fingers crossed it's a good year.
You say Chennai is a place that knows how to use you. What do you mean by that? Because I have noticed over the last few years that IPL franchise sides use you slightly different. You may bat higher up the order if your matchup is right, whereas England see you maybe as a finisher or whatever with the bat. What is the best way to use Sam Curran?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think in the past, I have said before, I think sometimes being an all-rounder can actually hinder you in terms of, I think you can always be that Mr. Fix-It kind of 6, 7, 8 and kind of balance sides out. Probably noticed in the 100, I batted at 4 for a lot of the time with the Invincibles, and same again. I guess I won't give away where I'll be batting with Chennai, but I think that roll away in terms of, I guess, I think my batting has come on quite a lot in the last couple of years. I feel a lot more, I think because I started so young, I probably was just playing cricket and didn't really think about the game too much, and probably just like you play school cricket in a way, you just run up and bowl and try and back play your shots. And actually weirdly saw some highlights of that 2018 series against India when I first started in the test cricket, and I watched that inning. I was like, I don't even remember a thing on that whole test series. I was thinking, I was so young, and you just naturally do it. But I think being exposed to those batting positions, I think, has definitely helped my game. I think I learned quite well on the job in terms of if someone puts me in a situation, I think my solution, I feel it easier to find a solution on field rather than probably in the nets trying to overthink it. And I feel that's my best way. So I think in the top 6, definitely in T20, I think is my biggest strength. I wouldn't say I'm a six hitter from ball one. I think I like to build an innings and kind of groove my way through the middle. And I think with the ball as well, it's an interesting one. When I first started with the ball, I took the new ball for Surrey when I was really young, and obviously played Test cricket and bowled a little bit with that, and obviously playing under Jimmy and Broady and stuff like that. But then you go to a World Cup, and I guess I was the death bowler, and then the trend of that, he has to bowl at the death. It's kind of like I find trends in cricket can be a little bit, as a player, obviously I love that World Cup and I feel like I love those big moments of being under pressure. But at the same time, then after that World Cup, I probably never took the new ball for England. So it's kind of like those small things, the trends you can kind of fall into. And I don't think that's anyone's fault. I think that's just how much cricket we play and timing of stuff. And I think I wouldn't hide behind it. I think I definitely prefer to bat as high as possible.
You've obviously had to learn about yourself. And on the back of that, you're now a veteran. You're 26. Jacob Bethell starting off, what were you, 2021, your first IPL deal? He's 21 now. RCB, what advice would you give a young Jacob Bethell at RCB with with Kohli in the dressing room, etc.? One of the biggest franchises in any sport and the eyes on that franchise. What advice would you give young Jacob Bethell?
Yeah, I think I know Beth reasonably well. I had a couple of tours with him. I think, like I just said about the other night, we were batting at 11:30 and there was time's not really a thing here. So I think he's just got to soak it in. I don't know how much he'll play there. And if he does, I guess not trying to put too much pressure on himself. But I think I actually spoke to Liam Livingstone yesterday, and he kind of said they did an unbox event at RCB where they had a practice session. It was a full stadium. And I just think stuff like that, you can just take it all in. I think it's obviously a long period of time. You can hit so many balls, and I'm sure he probably hasn't toured India hugely. So I guess he can learn through that. And I think it's just being around. And I think sometimes in England, you don't have that opportunity to hit as many balls as you like. You can bat for as long as you want. There's so many net bowlers. There's so many spinners. There's loads of great coaches. So I think in volume of stuff, IPL is probably the only tournament you can train really well as well. Like we play on Sunday and then we don't play till Friday. So you get a good time in between games, where most franchise tournaments, it's game, day off game. So you don't really, if you turn up to a tournament out of form, I think it can be quite hard because you don't get to develop. Sometimes it can happen in international stuff. The schedule's busy and you don't get to train. So I think for Beth, and most guys who are here for the first time, I think it's just soak it in. It's such a unique experience. And I guess we're very lucky to come here.
What's the expectation around Chennai for this tournament? I mean, looking at your squad, it seems you're exceptionally well sourced in the spin department. I mean, that's been a traditional strength of Chennai over the years. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think obviously we signed Noor Ahmed, who's quality spinner, and they've got Ashwin. We've got Ashwin back as well alongside Jadeja. So there's no hiding that those are three quality spinners. And I guess people might say that the wickets obviously in Chennai have a tradition of turning a little bit, but I think I guess Chennai's got huge expectation. Like I said, they've qualified so many times for the playoffs, and it's such a long tournament, 14 games. The best thing about Chennai, I find, is they don't really panic. I think they keep their squad very, very constant in terms of they'll back players a lot more than other teams do and make less changes. And I think that helps with players' feelings in terms of not worrying too much about, I might get dropped or I don't know what my role is. So, I think everyone's team at the start of the IPL looks mega. It's just who can handle, because I think I captained last year at Punjab. I think the hardest thing is you look at your bench strength and it's frightening. Like the players you have on the bench is actually where it gets confusing. You lose and you might think, we have to change. But I think it's the teams that hold their nerve and come game 4-5 have found their kind of formula, which they're going to back.
I was going to say that one thing that has been noticeable in the last few years is the depth to Indian cricket. We saw that in the recent T20 series against England, where they can make so many changes because of retirement, and the players they bring in are just phenomenal. I was looking at the Sunrisers Hyderabad side, and you could have four overseas of Travis Head, Pat Cummins, Adam Zampa, Heinrich Klaassen, and everyone goes on about the overseas. Yeah, great overseas, four the best. But then you have, Ishan Kishan, who's a phenomenal cricketer, Abhishek Sharma, it's that depth, isn't it, that makes this tournament really special. The Indian cricketers that may not be playing every international, there's some serious ones around.
Yeah, I think I say it quite a lot. Everyone says it. I think in the as the players, I think the Indian players are way more important than any of the overseas players because, like you said, our captain here, Ruturaj Gaikwad, he's a phenomenal player, but he's getting nowhere near the Indian side. But it just shows how strong they are. Everyone jokes that India could have a couple teams, but they probably could in terms of how strong they are. And I guess, the impact player as well has probably helped a lot more in terms of batsmen going a lot harder and the scores. You mentioned Hyderabad. I think from memory, they got about 270, 280 twice last year. So stuff like that as a bowler, it's not very fun. And I guess that's why everyone loves the IPL. It's just such entertainment. It's such all the quality players. But the depth of Indian players, and even like I said, it's a new season, a new kind of 3-year cycle. So all the younger players you get to meet, you face them in the nets, you bowl at them, and you just think, wow, these guys have got so much talent. And I guess IPL is where all these young Indians make their name.
Could we just move it on a little bit? You mentioned the captaincy there, which you did at Punjab, and you did a bit in the desert for the Desert Vipers, didn't you, in the IL 20 there? I had a text from somebody who'd been involved in that tournament when England were, at the end of the Champions Trophy, and lots of chat about the captaincy. And somebody texted me to said Sam Curran did a really good job with the Desert Vipers. A few names have been bandied around. Is that something you have any ambitions for in the end, to captain England in white ball cricket?
Was going to come. I guess, no, to be honest, I've just been named the Surrey captain, which is obviously great in terms of, I guess, like you said, I'm captained a little bit, but to be able to be a permanent captain at Surrey, I think will be amazing honour with a club like that. But yeah, to be fair, my main aim is probably just to get back into the side. To be honest, with the way it went, and I feel like I enjoy the captaincy, but right now for me I feel in a good place as a player personally. It's just about getting back into the side, and I guess what will be in terms of that type of stuff. But I do enjoy it, and I feel like, I guess this year, perfect opportunity for me, I guess, to captain Surrey, and something I've enjoyed doing. So I guess we'll see what happens.
You've obviously got to get. Sorry, you've obviously got to get back in the side.
Exactly.
If you had to distill the reasons why you're not in the side, you must have had chats with, Brendan McCullum and people. What do you think you have to do to get back in the side, beyond the obvious about getting runs and wickets?
I guess personally, I probably think with England, I've never really found that perfect role. I guess in the Champions Trophy and that series they played in India, it was obviously, I think there was no like hiding that they obviously went for they stacked the batting in terms of, I guess, playing a lot of batters, and then there's the extra quick. So I feel like if I get my role right with England, I'll get back into it. Who knows what will happen now? But the cliche, like you said, runs and wickets is no debate. I just got to kind of keep doing that. I feel in a really good space in terms of, I was obviously gutted when it happened, but I'm still pretty young. And like I said, I feel like I've matured in terms of handling, I guess, the bad stuff. Like I said, when I first started, I was very just run up and bowl, and it came quite naturally, being honest, in terms of when people start to get to know you, how they play you. And I guess now being a bit more experienced, reading situations a bit better. And I really hope I can get back into the team. And again, there's only one way, hopefully kind of have a really good IPL and see where we are come the start of the summer.
Ath mentioned communication there. Is there communication in the modern game? You're both sides of the fence. You have been a leader, you've captained various sides, you are going to captain Surrey, but you're also been a player that's recently been dropped. A, do you think someone should be, told the reasons why they're dropped? And B, have you, as McCullum or Key or anyone, spoken to you and said, this is what we need? Or should they?
I think communication's always important. I think obviously McCullum, he called me at the start of that stuff when I did get left out, and I really respected it. He was very clear and honest, and I think that's what I've never worked under him, so he seems very very honest and clear about what he kind of just said, that I won't be there. And right now, it doesn't mean the door's shut. It's about just going away, doing really well, and performing. He just said, right now, this is the balance we're going with, and I think you respect that. Sometimes coaches can be, oh, it's not the end, and you can just keep working hard. I think it was an honest person, which in terms of this is what our balance the side is. If we did it differently, you could be in, but right now you're not. And I respect that more than probably sometimes it's the classic, oh, you're just a little bit unlucky to not miss out. And you kind of, oh, just keep working hard. But it's more, I think, as a player, when you get told, sometimes I feel those ones who are a bit more brutal can be really good for a player, because you kind of get back to your room or home and you're like, right, fair enough. Let me go and prove them wrong in a way. So I think that's a nice thing, which I respected. And fingers crossed, come June, I'll be back in the squads and hopefully performing.
Come May, June, there's going to be another Curran in a different Test match team as well. Zimbabwe are coming, and your brother is likely to be there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a great story. I think Ben, obviously going back to play for Zim, where I guess I grew up a lot of my time, and my parents being Zimbabwean and my dad playing for Zim. So it's a great story, and we keep joking that we'll play against each other with maybe in 2027 the World Cups, I think in South Africa and Zimbabwe as well, which will be great. But really pleased for him. He obviously had a few years at Northants and just knocked off his first ton against Ireland, which was really cool. He's joking that he's the first Curran to do it, which great bragging rights. But really pleased for him. I think my mum and obviously the family will be, I think, already looking at some Airbnbs in Nottingham for the 4 days there, and hopefully, I think I could still be in India. But I guess it'd be such a cool feeling to hopefully watch him walk out and play against England, and hopefully it knocks a few runs.
I mean, you say it's a great story. It's an incredible story, really. 4 cricketers from the same family playing international cricket. I mean, obviously, Mum is proud. Dad would be incredibly proud. What were those days growing up that Mum and Dad have produced? Obviously, like with the Broads and the Bairstows, you're around cricket a lot. But what were they like for the 3 of you to end up international cricketers?
Yeah, I think we still have our house out in Zim, which has got a 36-meter cricket net in the bottom of the garden and kind of closed in. And I get I haven't been back for quite a while, but you get pictures of all the childhood stuff. And it was incredibly competitive, like you'd expect. I think that's one of our strengths, is trying to be into the battle. My dad was very competitive himself, which everyone tells me in county cricket. He was always spraying, complaining with the umpires. But I guess, I think it's great having 3 brothers who play now. I think we have a WhatsApp chat where I guess probably 4 or 5 months ago, Ben was coming up against Afghanistan in a Test match, and I probably faced the spinners a lot more that he's never faced them. And you kind of have those conversations about what clues you can kind of pick up, and like proper cricket chat. People joke, oh, you badger chat, but when it's your brother, it's actually like you want to actually try and help him, which I found really entertaining. And you obviously joke, me and Tom were watching the Ireland Test. He was on about 99. The Ireland ODI is on 99 for about 8 balls. They brought the whole field up, and me and Tom were sitting, he's like, why is he blocking it? He just constantly kept blocking it. And I looked, I was like, I've never been in that situation, so don't blame him. But it was great. I think you get very nervous, and I guess it's probably the older we've got, we probably help each other more. When we were a bit younger, I think we were a bit competitive and kind of wanted him to fail, wanted him to not. But I think now we're at that stage where it's all about making each other happy, and I guess making Dad and Mum proud.
So on that group WhatsApp in middle of May, when he texts you saying, what about Gus Atkinson? What do you reckon? How should I face him? Your Surrey and England. You got your England shirt on, your Surrey shirt on? Or you're going to give your brother some tips?
Oh, I just tell him to walk into channel and whack him over the side screen. But no, it'll be good. I think I'll be incredibly nervous, and I guess, well, you never know when. Still 2 months away. Still keep that faith of maybe I'll try to get back into the team and try and nick them off. But I guess it'll be a great feeling. I think they tour Bangladesh now, Zimbabwe for 2 tests as well, which will be another challenge. It's great that they're playing a lot of test matches as well. He said to me they got about 10 or 12 test matches this year, which is really good.
So big game for you Sunday. You said it's the El Clasico of the IPL. Are you guaranteed a spot in the lineup? I mean, it's not completely straightforward which way they'll go, is it? The balance of the side there.
Yeah, it's obviously what's today, Thursday, so we train a couple more times. I guess, yeah, I hope so. I think there's no question the side's incredibly strong. I think, yeah, I'm hoping that'll be in there. I'm sure we'll find out the next couple of days, but it'll be great. I think the first game, they've obviously got guys like Will Jackson, Reece Topley in the Mumbai side, so it'll be cool to come across them as well. And that's the fascinating thing about the IPL. You kind of have a couple of meetings and you look ahead to some of the teams and they just stacked. You kind of have Sharma, Rickleton, Surya, Tilak, all these guys. You just think and then you look at our side, it's the same thing. So the standard's just incredibly high. And I just think as a player, there's nowhere else in the world where you can, I think, the game develops so much. I think the practice is huge in the IPL because no other tournament you can train as well as you can here. And like I said, time's not a thing. So Flem was getting a bit annoyed the other night that we didn't want to leave training and it just kept going. But no, it'll be good. And I'm sure hopefully we start on Sunday. And I guess hopefully in a couple of months' time, we've had a really good tournament and a good place coming back to the English summer.
Talking about practice and just, are you someone that likes to take time away from the game? I mean, it's a long slog, the IPL. You could be there end of May. There are slots, like you say, 5 days where you can have a gap. What does Sam Curran do? Is he someone that says, right, I'm going to go and see bits of it? Can you leave the bubble, leave your squad and go and do other things and then come back when needed? Are you that sort of person? And see India, it's a great country.
Yeah, it is. I think it is a challenge, I guess. I think the big one in the IPL, I do like training in terms of kind of sometimes in tournaments, like I said, you don't always train. But getting away from the game, I do find is hugely important. I've got a couple of friends flying out we've got to Mumbai for 5 days, so they've never experienced India. So they want to come watch one of those games. I think the Sunrisers played just before us as well. So they're going to cut things like that when you can try and get your family, girlfriend, stuff like go and it is quite difficult. Don't get me wrong, when you in Chennai and I guess you go out and they obviously love cricket and they love the players. So I think you've got to be smart with when you go to places. But I think it's more going to all the different, like in Chennai, there's a lot of different monuments and kind of stuff you can go and see. It's finding it's extremely hot, which you got to get used to. It's about 37 degrees and humidity's out the charts. So I do like getting away from the game. Don't get me wrong. I feel my game's in a good place at the start of the tournament. That's when it's really good. And I think you just got to rest. I do enjoy like going down. It's small things, going down to breakfast, and you can sit with so many of you've got guys like Devon Conway and Ratchin. Sit down at breakfast, and you can just chat like batting, and you can chat ways about attacking other opposition. I think it's probably why international cricket at the moment, everyone kind of knows everyone's game really well because we kind of get to know the other people as human beings rather than sometimes. I guess when you guys probably played, you probably didn't chat to the opposition as much in terms
didn't chat to each other, Sam, to be honest.
Well, exactly. There you go. But it's very different now. That's what I think's changed a lot is franchise cricket. You get to know your opposition and players as human beings, which I think has probably taken the edge off. Like, don't get me wrong, when you go across the line, you kind of still want to get one up and you still get into the battle. But actually seeing the Indian players as human beings and chatting to them about where they came from and the stories about I find fascinating in India. You chat to some of the local guys about where they were and where they started, and now they're captaining their franchises and local clubs. So it's great. Don't get me wrong, it's a long tournament, but I think if you start winning, it helps because if you're not winning, that's when the panic kicks in, and that's when it gets a bit messy.
And final question: it obviously focused on the IPL, but is it a kind of exclusive focus? I mean, the championship is a couple of weeks away. Surrey are, looking for a 4-timer in that. Do you keep half an eye on it? Do you keep in contact with your Surrey teammates as all that is going on? Or do you just kind of park that and say, well, I'll, get back involved when we get back in May, June?
Yeah, actually, really, I was obviously back home the last couple of weeks. The club had a marquee on the outfield, which is quite nice for the boys to get back on grass and training. It's crazy to think that the boys are going for the fourth championship in a row. I was actually obviously one of my good mates, Dom Sibley. I was chatting to him a bit about like how the team would line up. It's a formidable side at the moment. It doesn't really change, and I think that's the great thing. But we obviously lose a couple guys here and there, like Popey and Smithy, who Gus you mentioned earlier, but I think it's just the consistency that we've managed to get, and guys are staying fit, a bit of rotation, which I think other clubs probably haven't been able to, just in terms of keeping guys fit. But yeah, I do watch a lot of it. It's on at a great time here. Especially, I enjoy that first round of championships. I sit down in the coffee shop, get the iPad on, and just see blokes getting their stumps everywhere. I just got to laugh and say, "Wow, welcome to the start of the year."
Freezing cold.
Yeah, you see the slips with the hand warmers, and fingers crossed we can do it. I don't get me wrong. I think every player I speak to wants to beat Surrey now, because obviously we've won a lot of championships, and I think all the sides are looking pretty strong, or every side looks strong at the start of the season. I just think it's who can stay fit, because the volume of cricket's obviously long. And like I said, we've got a couple of nice additions. Matthew Fisher's at Surrey now, who's I think will do really well for us. Hopefully he can stay fit. Obviously Frankie Worrell, he's been amazing for 3-4 years. And when you got guys like Burns, Sibley, and your bankers, that you can just bank on guys like that for a lot of runs. And I think what Surrey have done really well the last few years is, I think before that we struggled with losing players to England and try to find balance of kind of, I think we've signed really smartly in terms of players who aren't really going to leave as much. And I think when we know you lose your Smith, you lose your Popey, but I think the guys like Ryan Patel has done incredibly well the last few years. And then you got Dan Lawrence now, who's at Surrey. He's going to score a lot of runs, and I think he'll be looking to try and obviously get back in the England side. So I think there's a lot of that kind of guys who have come, and I just think the top six, I might not get in the side when I get back, so I gotta keep reeling off the names. But I think the club's in a great place. Obviously, Stewie and Bats have done a great job there. So fingers crossed it can be the 4 years in a row. And then I guess someone mentioned that Yorkshire won it like 10 times in a row, something in the 30s or 40s or something?
60s. They certainly won it 3 times in a row, and then Surrey in the 50s was 7 or 8. But I can't hold those hopes high myself that Surrey win it again. But they're a fantastic side.
We'll chat in September and see where we are.
You've got it's a fascinating season ahead for you. Obviously, the next 2 months IPL, and then trying to get back in the England side. So we wish you well. Wish your brother well as well when Zim come. And yeah, good luck.
Don't be too harsh. Don't be too harsh. Don't be too harsh on Com. He walks out of that.
I'll text you. How do you get your brother out? We'll do a piece on
it. Just hang it wide. Weak on the cut.
Good luck Sunday.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.